There you go.
Drum beats and guitar riffs to the World Wide Web, from one countryside to the next. It's an international love affair, and new music is our gift to the free world. Our freedom of expression is only limited by our creativity, so we stand together, and because of it, our voices are unlimited. We represent every corner of the world as we broadcast our message to every country, state, city, and town. Our supporters have expressed tremendous gratitude for taking the high road and giving them free music again to the world.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, and DLive. And tonight, we're going to finally do something. People have been asking me for ages to cover this Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch television show. Even people in my friends and family who know of my interest in the strange and esoteric. Many people have asked me for a long time, what do you think of this? And to be very honest, spoiler alert, I think that Skinwalker Ranch is largely garbage. I think that it is sold as a one-stop shop for paranormal activity, Are you interested in UFOs and aliens? We've got them. Poltergeists and demons? We've got that too. Portals? Time travel? Ancient cryptid creatures? We've got that too. Do you like werewolves? We here at the Skinwalker Ranch have werewolves. And let's not forget the Dino Beavers. I keep forgetting to steal that Dino Beaver animation from Stephen Greenstreet. We don't have the budget for one. So, so the whole thing with Skinwalker Ranch is to me, it is built on a lot of stories. But as detailed by Stephen Greenstreet, by the way, in his recent series for the New York Post, The Basement Office, people have made literally millions of dollars selling the public fantastical stories about this place, Skinwalker Ranch, which, by the way, is a ranch in the middle of nowhere. And it hasn't been a working ranch for, 30 years or more? More, maybe. And it's interesting that people can make literally millions and millions of dollars talking about all the fantastical things at Skinwalker Ranch, but all we ever see is garbage as far as actual evidence. You want a film of that werewolf? Sorry, we don't have it. What? You want pictures of the Dino Beaver that guy saw? Sorry, we don't have it. But hey, there's demons and there's hitchhikers, which are reputed to be evil demonic entities which attach themselves to visitors of the ranch and then haunt them or hurt them when they leave the ranch and go home. And let's not forget, what was it, sexually transmitted diseases infecting people by poltergeist? Yeah, that was another story out of Skinwalker Ranch. And largely yesterday, we covered the ridiculousness of one George Knapp, who was, him along with Jeremy Corbell, are the two largest profiteers of what we could call the Bigelow era of Skinwalker Ranch. And there's multiple books written about it, documentary films. Everybody's making money telling these Skinwalker Ranch stories. But when you actually ask for, evidence, like George Knapp said that his books were based on physical evidence, you get nothing. And when pressed on a recent episode of the Joe Rogan podcast for evidence, George Knapp twice said, well, if you want physical evidence, we don't have that. Yet his book says it is based on the reams of physical evidence that they have accumulated on Skinwalker Ranch. And as a taxpayer in the United States, you might also be interested in knowing that one Senator Harry Reid and a few other senators got together and created what many people describe as a sweetheart deal for the owner of the ranch, one Bob Bigelow, in which people were supposed to bid on a contract to study paranormal activity. The only bidder was Bob Bigelow, who owned Skinwalker Ranch at the time. And our United States government gave him $22 million to study paranormal activity. This was the $22 million that later liars like Lou Elizondo said was given to him to study UFOs. Turns out that's not the case. And what did we get for our $22 million? Well, we got a lot of stories, written reports of strange and anomalous activity at this place called Skinwalker Ranch. And by the way, why is it even legal, for somebody to say, well, I own a ranch and it's paranormal, so you senators give me $22 million and I'll study the ranch for you that I own? There has never been an investigation into that money and where it went, why it was even given to Bob Bigelow, who, by the way, is a billionaire, right? Why are we giving billionaires $22 million to play Ghostbusters on a ranch they own? Interesting that happened. And people have detailed, right, that we got nothing. We got nothing for our $22 million as tax-paying Americans. But that doesn't surprise me. The United States government is the most wasteful entity in the world, right? Just look at what they spend on stupid things like food services and things like that. So Senator Harry Reid gives his buddy, who contributed to his campaigns constantly, $22 million to study the ranch, and we get back almost nothing. Almost nothing. Later, a man named Brandon Fugal, who we'll get into, purchased the ranch. And by the way, some of those common grifters that you may have heard their names bandied about, in techno scams like TTSA, the techno scam where they promised everybody they were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source. One man involved in that scam, techno scam, investment scam, was one Hal Puthoff, who was also heavily involved in Skinwalker Ranch and Bob Bigelow. Isn't that interesting? And isn't it interesting that the one person who profited probably the most from all this Skinwalker Ranch mythos or mythology was one George Knapp, who was employed by Bob Bigelow to, I think it was, to coordinate the researchers. So George Knapp gets paid money out of that $22 million. Did he give the money back to the taxpayers? No, he wrote some books with a lot of stories and made more money on Skinwalker, all without providing any evidence other than, trust me, dude, somebody told me this, right? And, to be fair, I haven't interviewed the people that George Knapp interviewed, but I have requested that George Knapp give me all their contact information so that I can interview them and find out if they even said any of the shit that's in his book. These things are important, but, don't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of a good story that you can sell. Yeah, it's sell. So, after wasting $22 million of government taxpayer funds studying the ranch, and by the way, we heard wonderful accounts through Stephen Greenstreet that people who worked for Bob Bigelow knew that he was getting agitated at the lack of paranormal activity at the ranch, so they would get drunk and fax him fake stories of paranormal activity. And one would have to ask themselves then, well, which were the real stories and which were the stories generated by drunk people drinking vodka at the ranch, trying to keep those, big checks rolling in while they were supposed to be studying the so-called paranormal activity at the ranch? Are those the fake stories or are those the real stories? Are those the stories that George Knapp is including when he's getting paid to talk at UFO conferences about Skinwalker Ranch? Is it the fake stories he's retelling or the real ones? The world may never know. But after the government and Bob Bigelow wasted $22 million studying the Skinwalker Ranch and providing scant or little or no evidence of any paranormal activity for that $22 million, Bob Bigelow, after a period of so-called inactivity at the ranch, became disillusioned and wanted to sell the ranch. So he gets Hal Puthoff and another guy whose name escapes me to approach another billionaire. I think he's a billionaire. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if Brandon Fugal is just incredibly couple $100 million rich or billionaire rich. And I would reach out for comment, but I can't now. More on that later. I have been blocked by Brandon Fugal. And at first I said, why is he blocking me? I never even tweeted at him on Twitter. I never said anything to Brandon Fugal. But then I realized that I had. So I'm not going to show you that I'm blocked, but I will show you what I think caused him to block me. Brandon Fugal, by all accounts, seems to be very, he's interested. After all, he's laid out millions of dollars of his own money to purchase the ranch and to study the ranch. But I'd love to see the accounting. In other words, how much did he purchase the ranch for? How much has he spent investigating the ranch? And how much money has he made from the television show? And by the way, there's a whole new controversy because members of the television show are taking money from the local municipality for God knows what. And Jack Brewer did an excellent job. But we do know what, right? Economic development. I'm not sure what they economically developed for the local people, but many stars of Skinwalker Ranch are involved with that money deal. And that is beyond the scope of tonight. Tonight, we're going to concentrate just on the so-called best evidence that TV stars from Secret of the Skinwalker Ranch have to share with us after, 6 years of investigating the ranch, 3 years of seasons of a television show. So I'd be interested to see what is the accounting breakdown? How much money did Brandon Fugal put in? How much money did he invest in all the equipment and paying all these scientists? And by the way, if you want to know, one of the things that I think is that Brandon Fugal is now suffering from what we'll call Bigelow syndrome. You remember how Stephen Greenstreet detailed in his report that the people that work for Bob Bigelow knew that he was getting pissed off because there's not enough paranormal activity or things going on, and he's paying everybody's bills. He's paying all these paychecks to people to live at the ranch, study the ranch. He's buying equipment, and they're not giving him enough paranormal activity. So they all started getting drunk and sending him faxes with fake stories about paranormal bullshit. I think, and this is my opinion and speculation, but I'm entitled to it, I think that Brandon Fugal may be, the people who work for Brandon Fugal may be suffering from Bigelow syndrome. Because after all, they're all making all this money, right? I believe that some of them live there full time, and they're at the ranch full time studying those ghosts and demons and werewolves. And I'm sorry, wait, I have a list. I do have a list of the, now I can't find it, of course. I had a list. Okay. So some of the list of paranormal activity reported at the ranch by profiteering promoters of Skinwalker Ranch are flying saucers, blue meanies, poltergeists, bulletproof werewolves, flying refrigerators, portals, dogmen, dino beavers, 9-foot-tall creatures, hitchhiker poltergeists, ghosts, demons, shapeshifters, cloaked 8 or 9 foot tall cloaked monsters that you could hear roar for miles, and much, much more. So, these people are getting paid for this. And let's be clear, I don't know. What do you get paid to be on a television show? It's at least thousands of dollars per episode, in my limited experience with that. And people that I know who were on similar television shows, thousands of dollars per episode you're getting paid. So could it be that maybe, just maybe, Brandon Fugal is also getting snowed by some of the people that he worked there? Now, I don't have any evidence or proof of that, but it's a reasonable assumption to make that people who are making hordes of money off of this Skinwalker Ranch may not be entirely trustworthy when it comes to the so-called paranormal activity taking place at the ranch, and how ethical or moral they are, how honest they are. Because many people have asked me what I think of the television show, and you should look into this, Stephen. And okay, so I watched a few episodes, and what largely I came away from that television show thinking is that they're trying to make something out of nothing. Constantly. Now, I watched 4 or 5 episodes of it, and it seemed like in every episode, they're trying to create paranormal activity out of ordinary earthly things that aren't paranormal, things that are not mysterious. Now, that may be just my perception, but it's not my perception alone. Many other people who have watched this television show, including Mick West said the same thing. It seems like you're trying to make something out of nothing. And Mick West, for those unaware, is a very well-known skeptic of paranormal activity, and the creator of Metabunk, the website that debunks a lot of garbage, fake paranormal claims. So back to Brandon Fugal blocking me, which, is really unfortunate because up until recently, I never said anything to him publicly. And I will say this, I've said it before, I will say it again. I just instantly didn't like him from the very beginning of this television show. Saw a little bit of it, said, this is another money grab. That's what I thought. That was my perception. I'm entitled to that perception, having seen the Bigelow money grab. Along comes another guy who's going to investigate paranormal activity at the same ranch that we've already wasted $22 million on and got nothing as far as proof or evidence, right? At least that's my perception. I'm allowed to have that perception. Show me, videos of bulletproof werewolves. Show me videos of cloaking alien 8-foot, 9-foot tall creatures. Show me the smoking dogs, right? The smoking dogs. Show me the werewolf with his arms crossed. I'd like to see this stuff. So I'm allowed to be skeptical because somebody's already wasted $22 million of taxpayer money pretending that there's some sort of, and that's my view. They were pretending that there's some sort of paranormal activity at this place in order to make money, right? And, we got no proof, no evidence, no proof and no evidence of this, but we did get an awful lot of stories, and people made millions of dollars telling stories about Skinwalker Ranch. Stories like this one.
They come down this dirt road one night and they see two figures, humanoid-looking figures, standing up with their backs to the road and looked like they were smoking cigarettes. They had trench coats on, smoking cigarettes, standing out on the road. These guys figure, what are these fellas up to? So they're pulling up and they shining their lights on the guys, and they turn around and they were dogs.
Now, if you think that's ridiculous, we can't forget about my other favorite story from Skinwalker Ranch, from Skinwalker Ranch's #1 profiteer, who wrote 2 books, one of which he said was filled with evidence that they amassed from the reams of physical evidence that they gathered during the investigation phase of writing the book, and then later admitted on Joe Rogan that there was no evidence, physical evidence at all. I love it. But this is my other favorite story of Skinwalker Ranch.
She saw this standing on 2 legs, a wolf creature, a wolf standing in her yard, its paws crossed like this, leaning on a tree, staring back at her.
And those, by the way, came courtesy of Stephen Greenstreet's Twitter. Please follow him on Twitter. He makes great Twitter posts about all this circus. This is a goddamn circus of ridiculousness, right? And very few people will actually stand up and show people how ridiculous it is. But I have to be very clear and be very fair. Brandon Fugal and his crew of, top-notch scientists, right? They did not make these claims. The previous people studying the ranch for the $22 million that taxpayers got scammed out of, those people made these claims. And then people like George Knapp went on to write books. Jeremy Corbell makes documentaries and with all of these stories and no evidence. But we have to be very clear in that Brandon Fugal didn't make those claims. The previous crew or people, including Bob Bigelow, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, made all of these fantastical claims and can provide zero. There's no evidence of any of these stories are actually true or really happened, other than anecdotal stories. Great stories, no evidence for them. So on to Brandon Fugal. Fugal is contacted by Hal Puthoff and I think maybe Kit Green, and Hal Puthoff contacted him on behalf of Bigelow, who was fed up with the lack of paranormal activity at the ranch. They were having a dry spell. I guess they ran out of vodka at the ranch, and the guys who used to sit around getting drunk, faxing Bigelow fake stories of werewolves and bullshit, ran out of vodka. So they had a dry spell at Skinwalker Ranch, and Bob Bigelow, he's a businessman. He's like, I'm paying all these people all this money. We're not getting enough paranormal activity. Go to this other billionaire that's interested in this stuff Hal Puthoff and Kit Green and tell them I want to sell the ranch. And that's what happened. And Brandon Fugal bought the ranch. And by the way, for a while, it was this big private thing, even though I searched the real estate records and got clued in of who bought the ranch. But it was a big secret for a while. But eventually, Brandon Fugal came out in public. He's the new owner of the ranch, and he's going to conduct real scientific study of paranormal activity at the ranch. And what does he do? He instantly signs up. Well, not instantly, but sometime after purchasing the ranch, signs up for a television show, a reality show, because nothing says scientific credibility like, let's go put this shit on TV, right? And we can talk about that for a moment because I think it's important here. If you really were interested in the truth or the science behind the paranormal activity, maybe you could have just conducted the scientific exploration of this ranch in private and then published the results in scientifically peer-reviewed papers, perhaps, or scientific journals, perhaps, or very credible. You could have, invited in very credible science and technology reporters and shown them all of your facts, data, evidence, videos, still images, pictures, all of the evidence that you have gathered. But they didn't do that. But in fairness to Brandon Fugal, he is a business person. So maybe, and this is again my opinion and speculation, maybe he saw the television show as a chance to recoup some of the money that he would have to dump into this thing and or funding to pay the people doing the scientific, so-called scientific research. And I call it so-called scientific research because I don't believe that these people that he has working for him are credible, trustworthy, and honest. I think they are clouded by money and fame and the desire to continue those paychecks going. That's my opinion, having observed, 4, 5, 6 episodes of this show. It just appears to me that they're trying to make mountains out of molehills. They got nothing, largely. And tonight we're going to see some of that. But before we get into that, speaking on the subject of credibility, Brandon Fugal likes to pretend or say that they're using the scientific method, and this is a serious scientific investigation into the paranormal phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch, and I beg to differ, because one of the other profit things that he's doing is putting reports or special things, right, behind a paywall. I don't understand why you would do that. Except maybe, again, in fairness to him, maybe he's trying to generate some revenue to pay all those scientists and pay for all that equipment. I did see, and by the way, I have a background in computer science. I did see some very interesting details on the main computer that they were using. And boy, that thing gave me a geek hard on like you would not. I haven't had a geek hard on that good since, I don't know. I one time got a server with 4 Xeon processors that had 8 cores each or something like that years ago, before anybody had anything like that. And I got a big geek hard on for that thing. But this monster main computer that they have at Skinwalker Ranch, they posted some information and details on that. And that gave me a big geek hard on, but it costs, according to the main scientist running that computer at Skinwalker Ranch, something like $30,000. So, and by the way, motion detector capable cameras, infrared cameras, night vision cameras, the whole place is wired with all these cameras. That's not cheap. And paying full-time scientists to sit around at Skinwalker Ranch and hopefully not drink vodka and make up fake stories, or get drunk and, anyway, I would give him this. Brandon Fugal's been all chips in on this. That's what I'll say nice about him. He spared no expense, right? What kind of computer do we need? Let's get the best computer that we could possibly get to handle all these incoming video feeds, right? And processing the data and whatever they need a computer for, they've got a monster of a computer that made my geek cock hard. It's $30,000 worth of processing wonderment. It's beautiful. 3 huge, I think 3, maybe more, huge monitors, right? It's the computer of my dreams and any geek's dreams. It's wonderful. So maybe, just maybe, Brandon has done things like the television show deal and the members only get behind our paywall deal to recoup some of his investment. After all, these things are not cheap. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I am not being critical of him for making these decisions. In fact, I support him making those decisions because he's a business person. I'm a terrible business person. He's obviously a great business person. I'll give him that as well. Anywhere you go near where he lives, his name is on every other building. Like, he's a real estate developer building huge office complexes and all these things. He's incredibly, incredibly successful at business. And he's also a science fiction nerd, which makes me like him. And he had a custom-made $30,000 computer made for him. That makes me like the guy right there. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I'm not being critical of having a paywall. However, Brandon Fugal likes to, portray that he's very serious about this very serious scientific investigation. But there are some indicators that that's not the case. And we're going to get into that. But back to the reason, back to him blocking me on Twitter, I really forgot that I did this. So, it was my fault. But I was reading a tweet thread between Stephen Greenstreet and Nick West and Brandon Fugal. And again, good for Brandon Fugal because he's engaging with the critics and the skeptics and the debunkers. And he's defending himself, I thought, quite well against some of what people are saying, being very critical of his efforts. And I noticed like that, you get that notice that you can't see these tweets or these tweets are limited or what. And I go, what happened? Brandon Fugal, you blocked me. Why did you block me? And then I suddenly realized, I go, first I said, I've never even tweeted at him. I've never said anything to him. Why did he block me? And then I realized I tweeted at him one time when I saw this, and we're going to share this and talk about it. All right. Here we go. So this is what apparently got me blocked. It must be because this is the only time I've ever said anything to Brandon Fugal. I said, nice advertising for your paywall. The same girl who told everyone the Montauk project was real without any investigation. She left out the part about the jerking off in a chair parties with the Montauk boys and the sex creepers pushing that story. And this is the advertisement for the paywall. And you get insider membership benefits, exclusive Skinwalker Ranch content, disturbing and anomalous audio, infrasonic and frequency data, access to confidential historical data, live Q&As with the Skinwalker Ranch teams. But who she has here, and this is no surprise to me, you got to know that I'm not a fan of this girl. And there's reasons for that. And Brandon Fugal, you should be aware that the person you have advertising on your paywall works for Jimmy Church or with Jimmy Church, the guy who has hosted more scammers in UFO land and conspiracy land than anybody on earth. You don't know this, Brandon, but Jimmy Church hosted David Wilcock, who pumped up not one, but 2 separate scams on Jimmy Church's show. And of course, Corey Good, he platformed him. Let's see, Jimmy Church platforms, who's that guy? Well, we'll go with the girl, Sarah R. Adams, who was selling fake med beds. She was running a scam selling fake med beds. He's hosting her, not asking her any questions about the scam she's running. Didn't ask David Wilcock about any questions about the scams he was running. And of course, got right behind Corey Good, the fake secret space program insider, who we now know through public deposition while under oath he's never been to space. And she works with and for him. But more than that, she did shows on Montauk, the Montauk Project, as if it was a real thing. But she left out the part where the guys who promoted the Montauk Project stories really were homosexual sex creepers who would make people jerk off in chairs in front of them. And this is well documented. And that's who you've got advertising your paywall. I'm gonna sign up, Brandon. I'm gonna sign up, and we're gonna cover what you get with your so-called insider benefits, right? Why is anything an insider benefit, right? I mean, I've seen the quality of the garbage on the television show that you're calling evidence of paranormal activity somehow, or maybe not calling it, but implying that there's something mysterious or paranormal going on here. So what are you saving to put behind the paywall? And is it better than what the crap garbage that's on the television show? Is that how this works? You got to pay to get to the good stuff? And I'm sorry, but if you're going to say that you're running a serious scientific research effort, maybe not going with a girl who works for the biggest UFO scammer platformer in the history of this entire thing, helping you advertise is a good idea. But then I remembered you gave her an interview, right? Because she's a UFO circle jerker, a big fan of UFO scammers and everybody else. And she asks no hard questions, does little to no research, and just, I suppose, pretends everything is real. So it's no surprise to me you gave her an interview. I was surprised, however, that you gave Stephen Greenstreet an interview and that level of access, and good for you for doing that. That means that you're not afraid of the scrutiny, but I think that Mr. Fugal may already be regretting letting Mr. Greenstreet onto the property and to do that piece for the New York Post, because it didn't go well so far for the Skinwalker Ranch community of researchers. So this is what got me blocked by Brandon Fugal. And here's what I will say. I apologize, Mr. Fugal, if you were offended enough by my tweet to block me. But what I said here is 100% factually accurate. She covered the Montauk Project, your advertising girl, or maybe she's just a model for your paywall. I don't know. But she covers the Montauk Project among other 100% provably fake stories, right? And she leaves out the part about all the jerking off going on. So she forgot to talk about all the jerking off, Brandon Fugal, the gay guys that used to jerk off in chairs in front of each other, right? Because you got to get up that sexual energy in the chair, like at the Montauk Project, and you got to keep spanking off until you reach that climax, and that somehow lets you teleport in monsters, right? And by the way, Mr. Fugal, unlike the person that you have helping you advertise your paywall, I did cover the Montauk Project, and I went there in person. I looked for the evidence. I climbed the fence. I could have got arrested for what I did. It's out of statute now. They can't get me now. It was years ago. But I hopped the fence. I went looking for vents, underground entrances, any sign that anything in the Montauk Project was true, accurate, or real. Do you know what I found? Nothing. There is no evidence there at that base of anything like the people promoting the Montauk Project talked about. That was a for-profit fake story generated by homosexuals who like to watch young men jerk off in chairs in front of them. And this has been well documented. And did you know a form of therapy or deprogramming, should you have been a victim of the Montauk Project, involved more sex creeper stuff like jerking off in front of a dude or letting a dude jerk you off, and hey, let's all jerk each other off to prove that we were part of the Montauk Project. This is just all of us could just get our cocks out and jerk each other off and talk about the secret Montauk Project underground base, which did not exist. She pretended it did. So, and why would you associate yourself with somebody who works with and for Jimmy Church, who constantly hosts scammers like Jason Shirka, who tells people that you can cure autism with camel milk and essential oils behind a paywall, of course, right? Or Billy Carson, who was arrested for fraud pled guilty of fraud and is right now selling, let's just say, questionable products. That's who she works with and for. And the Montauk Project is a 100% completely fake story. And she left out all the jerking off. You got to leave out the parts of the jerking off and the homo parties, right? Not that there's anything wrong with homo parties. You want to have a homosexual party and jerk each other off? I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. It's okay. If that's your thing, do it. Jerk off, but don't pretend that you were, have some secret knowledge of some secret project that was kidnapping children and abusing them and using them in some nefarious underground base that, by the way, does not exist, Brandon Fugal. I went there. I hopped the fence. I spent 2 days looking for vents or underground base entrances. I went to all the abandoned buildings on that base. There is nothing there like the Montauk Project people described. Nothing. And this is who you have helping you advertise for what it is that you are selling. Sorry, not sorry. This is a bad look for you. And even giving somebody an interview like that, I would think is a bad look for you. But I'm biased. I will admit I'm biased because I don't like who she works with. And I don't like the fact that she wants to take all the benefit of her association with slimeball scam promoter, hoax promoter, Jimmy Church. Do you know who else he promoted, Brandon Fugal? A completely and totally fake doctor. We caught him with that one. Completely, totally fake doctor. Wasn't who he said he was. Fake name. Yeah. The guy who had the alien in his freezer. He promoted that. She says nothing about all this stuff. And I'm the bad guy for pointing out facts and evidence like the jerk-off parties of the Montauk Project that she left out of her story because, telling people the truth that those stories were promoted by guys who like to have homosexual parties and jerk each other off or watch each other jerk off in chairs, that doesn't really help sell the story of the paranormal, events that took place at the secret Montauk base that, by the way, doesn't exist. I spent 2 days of my life, right? So, pardon me if I get a little pissy when some girl is sitting there doing the right-click research thing. Let me look up on the internet what people said about this and just repeat it, right? And that's only one of the problems with that girl. But you rewarded her with an interview, apparently not knowing that she's a piss poor researcher who leaves out things like jerk off parties because that doesn't help sell the story. And now she's plastered all over your buy our paywall page. Great. Nothing says credible scientific research like putting a girl on your page that talks about the Montauk Project but leaves out all the homosexual stuff and the sex creeper parties and the jerking off constantly, and you got to jerk off in front of that guy to prove that you were part of the Montauk Project, and this guy's jerking this guy off, and there's a form of therapy. The deprogramming for being a victim of Montauk Project is to let a guy jerk you off or jerk off in front of him. It's all, just leave all that out. Nothing says credibility, Brandon Fugal, like that. And while, again, I will apologize if Mr. Fugal was so offended by my statement of fact there that he blocked me on Twitter, I was defending him. But I did see that and said he should know. He should know that's who he's using to help him advertise what he's selling people. I think that's very fair, right? Yeah, and I think Mr. Ian is asking, is the jerk fest over? Has it stopped? Yeah, the guy died. One of those guys died. So the jerk off party stopped, I think. But there's still other guys that are promoting that story. Yes. And Mr. Blood Vessel says, I live near Montauk. I wish I knew you were visiting. It was some time ago. But I did spend 2 days there and committed a few crimes. But I was obsessed with knowing if that story was true. You ever just get into a story and it just grabs you? that story grabbed me, and I read the books and I saw what people were saying, and I'm like, Montauk is not that far from me. I'm in Pennsylvania. I could drive there. Let's go see that base. And I did. And you know what I saw? Nothing. Absolutely nothing like the people who promote that story describe. Nothing. Now, I'm sure they're going to bring in the men in black, and they covered up the base and they filled in the underground parts and the tunnels. Sure. I went looking. There's no tunnels. There's nothing there. Abandoned buildings, left to be destroyed by time. That's it. So recently, Stephen Greenstreet, again, who did an excellent report, and I'm gonna fix something here, and that is that I'm a terrible show host, and I did not put the video that we'll be sharing tonight, under fair use, of course, in the description of the video that you are watching. So let me go and do that very quickly. And while I'm doing this, I want to welcome for joining us, especially those new friends that we are finding through these new video platforms and our new distribution network, including those listening on Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey, or watching on Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. You are most welcome. So glad to have this increased audience now. And I'm just going to put video shared by Stephen Greenstreet. I'm a terrible show host. Sometimes I say I'll put it in the description of the video, and then after the show I forget and never do it, and people get pissed off. All right, so let's do it. Let's see. Okay, so Stephen Greenstreet did an incredible job, by the way, detailing all the garbage fake stories that George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, and others have sold and told about this Skinwalker Ranch, and also the fact that there's no evidence for any of it, even though George Knapp said that the book was based on all this evidence. When pressed for evidence, he doesn't have any. So let me put up our fair use banner. This is transformative work. We're educating the public and critiquing the video that we're sharing. And this is, of course, a transformative work. And we'll be discussing this with the live chat as well. So you guys help to make this a transformative work and make this all possible. And thank you for being here to do that. So Stephen Greenstreet, excellent report detailing that the Bigelow error is a crock of shit. I'm just going to say it like that. The Bigelow error is a crock of crap. There is no evidence. None. $22 million wasted. We got nothing. Brandon Fugal buys it. He's going to do it the right way, the scientific way. They're going to do it the right way, even though they got a girl that's very questionable helping them advertise the crap that they're selling the fans of the show. And again, Mr. Fugal, if you want to be perceived as credible, maybe having somebody that works with Jimmy Church, the biggest slime ball in UFO land, is not a good look for you. Maybe you ought to reevaluate those decisions. But I get it. She's a big friend and fan, and she interviewed him and gave him the softball circle jerk, right? And didn't ask him any hard questions like about the financial arrangements and stuff going on, like stars of the television show getting money from the local municipality for what, Brandon Fugal? And by the way, you haven't commented on any of that stuff publicly, have you? I think you should. It's problematic because, after all, the American taxpayers were, in my view, scammed out of $22 million previously for Skinwalker Ranch. Now, apparently, some other taxpayers are giving money to people involved with Skinwalker Ranch. I would think, being a business person yourself, you would understand that that doesn't look good, especially considering the history of somebody else essentially taking $22 million of taxpayer money for Skinwalker Ranch. Now we've got people involved with Brandon Fugal Skinwalker Ranch taking money, taxpayer money. And by the way, to be clear, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think Brandon Fugal should do a show and talk about that and defend their reasoning for taking taxpayer money. Why are people from Skinwalker Ranch taking taxpayer money, Brandon Fugal? It's a fair question. And I know somebody that worked for you talked to Jack Brewer, but that was kind of hard to follow. I don't completely understand. Why are you guys taking taxpayer money, and why is that ethically or morally okay? I don't understand. I just don't understand. And what about these huge events, right? Like that just happened. And Travis Taylor, how much money did he get paid to talk at that conference? Right? Is this about science, or is this about cash? Right? We got TV show cash. We got money from the local municipality coming in. We got a paywall where you could get behind the paywall, and you see that nice picture of the girl who forgot about the Montauk Project jerk-off parties when she told everybody essentially that that's a true story with her slimeball partner, Jimmy Church. Yeah, great. So we've got money from the television show deal. We've got money from behind the paywall, and then we've got conference appearance money and money coming in from the local taxpayers somehow. Real scientific, it seems to me. All right, so Greenstreet gets to be invited to Skinwalker Ranch. And by the way, I'm pretty sure after this broadcast, I will never be allowed to step foot on Skinwalker Ranch. So my dream of visiting there is now probably gone. And by the way, Mr. Fugal, I would certainly, like I say, maybe I'm just being honest with you where other people are dancing on eggshells. And by the way, that's a good person to have around you. You got yes men around you, I think. So maybe, just maybe, there's still a possibility that Brandon Fugal's going to email me and tell me that I'm welcome to go with cameras and my own equipment. By the way, Mr. Fugal, I have my own equipment. I've got all kinds of stuff, magnetometers, night vision, infrared, all kinds of sensor equipment and more. And I would be happy to come there and spend 2 weeks. I would spend 2 weeks there trying to capture some form of paranormal activity. But I suppose that, like most people that are selling a fairy tale, he does not want the scrutiny. I'm surprised he let Stephen Greenstreet anywhere near this thing. But I'm glad that he did. Because while there, Stephen Greenstreet asked a very important question. Can you show me some of the most compelling evidence that you have? You have this supercomputer, and you've got, what do they got, 100 cameras throughout the ranch? I don't know. Cameras all over the ranch, all feeding into this supercomputer, which then tags things that are worthy of, interest of the human operators. So Stephen Greenstreet asks him, show me the best that you got. And I almost fell out of my chair when I saw this, because remember, this ongoing scientific paranormal investigation has been going on for years. We're up to 3 seasons of a television show, and he's got at least 2 professional scientists there, right? There's the guy who works the computer. Sorry, his name escapes me. Chief Science Officer, I guess, like Star Trek, that guy. And then you got Travis Taylor, who every time he sees something, he's convinced it's paranormal. Or it's a tic-tac. It's got to be a tic-tac. I almost fell off my chair when I saw what they showed Stephen Greenstreet. And does this mean this is really the best that they have after years of camera feeds, after years of Brandon Fugal dumping money after money after money into this place? Is he paying all these people's salaries to get this level of garbage? This is garbage, and we're going to get into it. All right, so we've cited fair use. We're going to share this, and this is from Stephen Greenstreet, the New York Post. He does episodes for the New York Post called The Basement Office, all about UFOs and paranormal activity. If you've never seen it, go see it. And the video that we are sharing is in the description of this video that you are watching, wherever you are watching it, so you can go and see the entire thing. We're only going to be sharing the relevant portion of it. And let me do that one more time. Always forget to share the audio, or make sure I'm sharing the audio. And so the chief science guy shows Brandon Fugal some rocks. They look like.
I decide I need to see more than just normal looking rocks discovered where rocks are usually found. Fugal has installed dozens and dozens of surveillance cameras on the ranch, and all of that video comes through here, and computers highlight any movement or strangeness. So with cameras all over the place, running 24/7 for many years now, what are the best examples of paranormal activity they've captured on video?
Yeah, and by the way, I would like Brandon Fugal to comment on this specific thing. And the reason I would ask that Brandon Fugal comment on this is because we don't know. You know, I just want to be sure that, like, maybe this guy didn't understand the question. But Stephen Greenstreet is saying, essentially, you got all these cameras everywhere. It's all fed in right here. Let me see the best evidence that you got. Maybe he misunderstood him. Maybe he's got a folder somewhere of better stuff that we didn't see. Maybe this is just recent. I just can't believe that this has been going on for years and years and years, all this video feed. And Stephen Greenstreet, he has to see the best stuff. What's the best you got? And then he shows him this.
What are some of the best examples of
he
something
does ask him.
anomalous?
This is what he shows me.
Go ahead, say it out loud. What's your first impression? And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see that movement?
Bug.
Yes.
I see a spider hanging from a web that is not being picked up on camera, in the wind blowing it, is what I see. You could see legs almost. It almost looks like a body.
I don't see that. What I see here is a moth. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I have trail cams at my camera that are, infrared, night vision, whatever. And occasionally I catch footage like this. And it's a moth. It's nothing paranormal. It's nothing mysterious. It's a moth. But night vision cameras will amplify sometimes, a white or light colored moth to look more like an orb like this. That's my take on this, that this is a moth. I could be wrong. We don't know for certain. But again, Stephen Greenstreet asked him to show him the best footage of anomalous activity that they had. And and this is what the guy pulls out after years. This dude has been getting paid big time to be on a television show. He's getting paid by Brandon. I don't know. Is he one of the guys getting paid by the local municipality and taxpayer money too? Like, I don't know that he's talking at conferences. I don't know he's getting conference money appearance, but maybe. Is he getting paid from the behind the paywall talks? When they do talks with cast members, is he getting paid for that too? And Stephen Greenstreet, he asked him, show me the best you got. And this is what we get.
With legs going like this.
Okay.
See?
Okay.
The video clip is only 20 seconds long. As such, we're not able to see what occurred before or after the blurry bug thing appeared.
And by the way, Stephen Greenstreet may well be right. It may be a spider, also amplified by the camera artifact.
This limits the ability to fully come to a conclusion.
So this thing goes out of sight.
And you see those other bugs that flew in front of the camera? Why are those not anomalous?
And that's it. That's it. So is it conclusive? No, I don't think it is, but boy, it's interesting.
They show this same clip on the History Channel show.
Here's where it gets better. And here's where we get back to my concept. Well, I thought it was my concept, but apparently a lot of people think it, including Mick West, that they try to make something out of nothing. Let's say, for an example, that either Stephen Greenstreet is right that it's a spider dangling from a spider web, or I'm right that it's a moth, right? What if Stephen Greenstreet or I are correct in our cursory examination? Quite honestly, if I captured that on a camera equipped with night vision or infrared or whatever, I wouldn't waste any time on it. I would waste zero time on that. But again, back to the concept of making a mountain out of a molehill or making something out of nothing. These guys are getting paid big bucks to be on a television show. And let's examine for a moment what would happen if they broadcast this on the television show and just said, yeah, it's probably a moth or a spider or insect. It's nothing mysterious or paranormal. And then they moved on. Well, there wouldn't be much of a television show, would there? I don't think so. I mean, if you're going to have a paranormal television show, you have to show some paranormal activity. So is it a big stretch to think that maybe, just maybe, this is a blurry bug and is created from the artifact of the camera being a night vision camera? Let's see what Travis Taylor has to say about what this really is.
But they edit it in a way that makes it seem like it appears out of thin air.
I really want your thoughts on what this might be.
What on earth is that?
Deceptive editing. All paranormal shows, in my experience, they all do deceptive editing. And I think that even Brandon Fugal would admit that this is deceptive editing. It's very deceptive editing because in the true or real raw footage, you see it just come into frame. It doesn't blink into existence or seem to appear out of nowhere like they made it appear on the show. This is deceptive editing. It's deceptive practices designed to convince you of something. Deceptive practices designed to sell you something ordinary as extraordinary.
Then, after only briefly looking at it, Travis Taylor suggests the blurry bug thing might be something like...
Joe, I tell you what it reminds me of. The Tic Tac UAP video. The UAP that appeared in the Tic Tac video that was recorded by the USS Nimitz Group in 2004.
How do you go from a moth to a Tic Tac UFO? I don't know, but he did. And look, even this dragon guy, even this guy's like, is he for real? Is this guy serious? This guy's got a science degree?
What? Here's some night vision footage I found of a spider spinning a web. These white orbs are just the infrared reflecting off the silk. It's not a perfect match, but it makes more sense than a Tic Tac UFO that can travel at 80,000 miles an hour.
That is very, very good. The infrared light will bounce off of the silken spider web. And if you ask me, that's a very good match. So maybe Stephen Greenstreet is more correct in his analysis than I was. But regardless, this is, to me, this is garbage. Pumping this up as something paranormal or anomalous or an anomaly even, without even investigating the possibility that it could be something very, ordinary. And Mr. Fugal's got all this money. Why don't you bring in a spider expert to look at this footage and ask him if he believes that that is just what Stephen Greenstreet is coming to the conclusion it is, before you jump right to Tic Tac UFO. And by the way, how much money are you paying Travis Taylor to do that? To jump right to Tic Tac UFOs from this garbage footage. This is garbage footage. It has nothing to do with UFOs. Maybe ghostly orbs, you could say, but to jump right to a Tic Tac UFO and try to connect those dots, jeez.
This is the next video that they show me.
Okay. Yeah, so something's up here moving what I think is like a moth.
It's very bug-like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very erratic and bug-like.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Stephen Greenstreet asked him to show him the very best footage that they had from all these years of all these cameras running. And this is what they I'm sorry, this is a bug too.
Here's the problem. Look at the timestamp. Look at the date.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cold.
Yeah.
Oh, it's middle of winter.
Yep.
Okay.
You see the problem?
Yeah.
Now, the thing that caught my attention about this is the way this thing exits the scene. I could see that this object literally shrinks as it recedes, as if towards the horizon.
Again, we need a lot more data. Is this an infrared camera, a night vision camera? You know, that could explain this so-called anomaly. But to jump right to something paranormal, it looks like a bug to me. And I'm sorry, it being winter is not an excuse for there being no bugs. There's bugs in winter. You ever see carpenter bees with a disturbed nest in the middle of winter? They'll fly all over the place for a while until they die from the cold. You could have flies inside the structures, the heated structures of Skinwalker Ranch, that fly out and fly in front of cameras. It being winter is not enough to preclude the possibility that this is bugs.
Really fast. Okay, so here we go. See what happens there?
Play it again.
So
It
here we go.
moves like a fly or a bug to me.
It's like the Millennium Falcon hits hyperspace, you know?
You know, and that's why sometimes when I play this for people, I'll make that noise.
While it may be fun to pretend that this is a craft zipping away at high speed, in reality, there is simply not enough data there to fully identify what it is.
Do you understand how someone could go down a rabbit hole?
Looks like a bug to
an
me.
endless rabbit hole on something like this, where when I see that, I'm like, I think that's a moth. Pending any new data beyond this one video, is it worth my time?
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is this worth the investment that Brandon Fugal, you know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars has Brandon Fugal paid these science guys to find evidence of the paranormal? And this is what they give him? I mean, if I was Brandon Fugal, I'd want my money back. But that's me. I'm pretty cheap.
Really to obsess about it.
You know, there is no authoritative answer. You're the one who's going to provide that answer.
Yeah.
And
Where's
this
the
is
dino
the final
beavers?
video I'm shown. In one of the ranch's abandoned buildings, in the middle of the day, two glowing objects float in midair. A bird flaps around and squawks. The two objects appear to float up towards the bird. The bird then flies away.
Oh, dude, the instant it reaches the bird, it flies away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to give me one or two prosaic explanations for this.
Sure. Caterpillars, you know, the silk worms?
Yes.
It's like the caterpillars, they do
I think he nailed it personally, but I have another explanation, and we'll talk about it in a moment.
that. They hang, they suspend in air like that. And so when I saw,
Let's take a look. I like this comparison.
the only thing that makes me think it's not this is just the light. There does seem to be a source of light.
Right.
That is strange, though. I'll give you that. That is weird. Why should your average person care? Is it, in the grand scheme of things, is what I just saw on this, like, who cares?
So we've gone from seeing two flashes of light in a carriage house to some really deep dive philosophical questions. And to me, that's at least part of the point of this.
Okay.
I thought part of the point of this was to prove paranormal activity, not to discuss philosophical questions. But that's just me. And again, you know, I think it's important that if you're going to claim something is paranormal, you have to eliminate all other prosaic or ordinary explanations of an event first. Why can't they bring on a caterpillar expert to look at that and determine if that's truly caterpillars, silkworm caterpillars, which, by the way, are very bright white. And on a very sunny day, you can see from that footage, it's super sunny, even inside this wreck of a carriage house that's falling apart and has, holes in the roof. I don't get it. And the other thing is, I'm going to do some tests myself, but I would think on a very sunny day in an environment like that, you could create that with a couple of handheld mirrors reflecting sunlight onto those beams. That's just one thing that I thought of, but Mr. Greenstreet may be more correct. I would want an insect expert or caterpillar expert, someone who studies silkworms, to look at those and caterpillars and determine if that's what it is. And wouldn't doing that be a little more in line with the so-called scientific method that Brandon Fugal claims he's doing this investigation with, instead of let's talk about what it could be and forget about identifying what it actually is? These are important questions.
I like this discourse. I like to take it there. Take a moment and forget about all the other mundane stuff, the stuff that goes on in daily life, and think for a moment about what would it mean to me if I
By the way, I was wrong. It's 4 huge monitors.
were to see that type of an event. Okay, I don't think there's just one answer to this. I have my answer. You have yours. I would assume.
But I think what you just said is, what would happen if?
Yes.
That question. What would happen if? I think sums up UFOs, the paranormal.
Yes.
All of it is that. What would happen if?
Brandon Fugal flies back to Salt Lake City to attend to his real estate business. He's given me permission to sleep overnight in a tent out at Homestead 2.
Yeah, and Stephen Greenstreet sort of ends it there. The next episode, we'll get to see what happened when he camped out in a tent near the supposedly most haunted site on the Skinwalker Ranch. I'm anxious to see what actually happens with this, but I wanted to get into this, just this. This, to me, displays that there's nothing there. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. If all you've gotten after 6 years of serious scientific investigation is 2 videos of likely bugs and 1 of caterpillars or light reflections somehow, and by the way, I would want to, if I could be there in person, I would take some mirrors with me and see if I could recreate that with just some handheld mirrors reflecting sunlight onto those beams. And by the way, I'm not accusing somebody of purposefully hoaxing that footage, but that is indeed a real possibility of how that could have happened. Somebody off camera holding a couple of mirrors reflecting light onto those wood beams. And it's very within the realm of possibility. So someday on a sunny day, I've got little handheld mirrors. Don't ask why. I've got all kinds of junk in my garage for building things, including laser displays and laser light show stuff. So I've got a whole bunch of these little mirrors. And I remember being somewhere with the mirror and going, wow, that's cool. It reflects light incredibly. And maybe, just maybe, that is a creation and not something paranormal. It's a real possibility. So, what do you guys think? This is what we see when Stephen Greenstreet asked to see the best footage that they have. And this is years of scientific investigation, and we get that. We talked previously about a few things, like how when selling a fake paranormal or alien story or UFO story, you have to do a few things. And every story that we have looked into follows this plan. In order to sell the story, you have to super hype it, overhype it, and you have to underdeliver. Because you have to hype it up so much. Remember, werewolves, dino beavers, portals, flying refrigerators, 9-foot tall cloaked alien or monster creatures that you could hear roar for miles, shape shifting, right? Bulletproof werewolves, teleportation, poltergeists, demons, hitchhikers, ghosts, demons, alien spacecraft. That is the overhype. That is the overpromising of Skinwalker Ranch. And what do we get when a serious journalist is there and says, show me your best evidence? Well, we get the under-delivering and the inevitable big letdown. For all the hype, all the incredible stories coming out of this place, that's all they got after, what, is it 6 years now? Or let's just say it's 3 years, because 3 years of the television show. After 3 years of constant filming and on-staff, on-site scientists, and that's what you got? That's all you got? If I was Brandon Fugal, I would want every penny of my money back. But again, like many other stories in conspiracy land and UFO land, this follows the usual course of overhype, overpromise, and then the inevitable happens. They underdeliver on all that overhyping and overpromising, and then comes the big letdown. Even if you're a fan of the television show, and by the way, good for you. If it's entertaining to you and you enjoy it, then I find no fault with people watching it. Just know that they are overhyping, overpromising, and they are under-delivering. And that will lead you to the inevitable big letdown. It's unfortunate, but this is the way that these things work. In my observation and experience so far, they all work that way, right? What about Jeremy Corbell? How much did he hype that Bob Lazar documentary? And then he under-delivered, and then it led to the big letdown. What about George Knapp? Was he overhyping the book when he was talking about bulletproof werewolves and shape-shifting aliens and dogs, that smoking dogs and all this shit? And then when asked for evidence from Joe Rogan, he said, well, we don't have any evidence. It's just stories. But this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. And now I find myself blocked by Brandon Fugal. And, I don't even know what to say about that. I will apologize. Maybe it was the jerking off. I know Mr. Fugal is a religious man. And by the way, that's something that we should talk about but I'm hesitant to do that. Mr. Fugal and many of the people involved with the ranch are Mormons. And, I'm not really going to say much. I will say that they have some very strange beliefs, Mormons. But then again, I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm now what most people would consider non-denominational Christian. I'm a recovering Catholic. And Catholics believe a lot of strange things, like we're eating the body of Christ and drinking his blood at every mass, but I wondered about all these people being Mormons and believing in things like the magic underwear, if they were maybe predisposed to believe in strange things and accept strange things on faith rather than on evidence. But the same can be said for Catholics. The same can be said for Orthodox Christians, Methodists, whatever. Religion comes with a lot of really, really strange beliefs. But one thing that's kind of troubling to me about Brandon Fugal and others being Mormon is that there is a mountain of evidence that the founder of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Church, Smith, was a con artist and a fraudster. And, what I could say about Mormonism is that there is a biblical concept, and you've heard me talk about it many, many times, called the test of a prophet. And the angel that Joseph Smith is talking to gives many prophecies, and they fail, which means that that information did not come from a divine source, because the test of a prophet states that a prophet can never be wrong, right? Information that comes from a divine source is not deceptive or wrong. It comes from a divine source. It's right every single time. That's how we know that false prophets and fake psychic grifters like David Wilcock are frauds, because he makes predictions and they fail. That means he's not a prophet. Those prophecies did not come from divine source. They came from deceptive sources like demons. And but I don't really want to get too deep into the religious aspect. It's just enough to mention that people who are Mormons believe in many strange things, like Jesus walking on in a new world and interacting with Native Americans, and I don't know. And so I did think, though, that if he believes in many of the, if Brandon Fugal honestly and truly believes 100% many of the things of the Mormon faith, he might be a little predisposed to believe people pushing paranormal nonsense without evidence. But again, in his defense, I'm a Christian, and you can attack Christianity and find things that are wackadoo or wacky about Christianity. But it's worthy of mention that many of the people involved with Skinwalker Ranch, and I found it interesting that Stephen Greenstreet was Mormon as well, or at least I'm not sure if he still is, but he was raised a Mormon and went on the missions and things like that. I just think it's a little weird that everybody involved in this thing, by the way, including Senator Harry Reid, who got the money to go look into Skinwalker Ranch to begin with, that we all got defrauded out of the $22 million, was also Mormon. And if these people believe in strange things like magic underwear, maybe they're a little too believer-brained to do serious scientific, study into the paranormal. But in his defense, I haven't seen anything from Mr. Fugal that would make me believe that he's a wackadoo, except for perhaps who he chooses to help him promote getting behind his paywall. You can't say we're doing serious scientific research here and then associate your project with people working for literally the biggest scam promoter in the whole field of UFOs, and that would be Jimmy Church, right? And again, that girl wants all the benefits. She wants all those subscribers. Give me the money, right? Give me those deals that Jimmy Church can get me. But she doesn't want to talk about all the scammers that Jimmy Church has backed, promoted, and profited from. That's a problem. And it's a problem for her, and it's a problem for Brandon Fugal by associating her with his project. And otherwise, what I will say is, they're going to just keep pushing this dead horse up the hill. They're not going to go, we did this for 3-4 years. We didn't find shit other than bugs. We got videos of bugs, and that's all we got in 4 or 5 years. So we're going to pack it in. No, I hear there's plans to put a hotel there. And so maybe I will get to go. I don't know if it's true. These are rumors and speculations, so take from this what you will. But I heard from multiple people, and we have to also remember that Brandon Fugal is a real estate developer. But I have heard that Brandon Fugal is going to put a hotel there. And then you can go spend a weekend at Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if that's true. I wish he hadn't blocked me, because I'd like to ask him if that's within the realm of possibilities of his future plans for Skinwalker Ranch. And I got to say, as skeptical as I am, and as a big of a nothing burger as I think this place is, just based on all the legends and stories, I would go. I would still go. I would plop down my few $100 and see if I saw any, I want to see a goddamn dino beaver. That's what I want to see. I don't know what you want to see. I want to see a goddamn dino beaver. So what I could say in closing is, I really believe that what I said earlier is the case here. Overpromise, underdeliver, and now we get the big letdown. And the big letdown is pretty big. I mean, Brandon Fugal has invested millions of dollars into this thing. If that's the best that he has after years and years and years, I feel bad for him, and I hope that he gets his money back. So we want to take some time to recognize our kind and generous supporters. For those unaware, we are a viewer-supported show. So let me go over there. I apologize during the presentation. We missed these. We have Maze Rage 86 with a kind and generous $1.99 super chat. Says Dragon the security officer was great comic relief. I agree. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We have Totem R with a kind and generous $5 super chat. Says been catching up on old episodes. You're prolific, Steven. Danke. I'm assuming you're German. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we have My Flock is Everywhere with the kind and generous $2 super chat. Says, hi, Stephen, praise the cash. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. And we can remind you that you can also, besides the super chat, that would be the money button down there where you can throw money at us. There is also a PayPal, and instructions for how to send a PayPal are in the description of this video or podcast if you're listening to the audio podcast. But please do, if you send a super chat, add a note and then write anything you want and we will read it out. So far, people have been very good about not doing things like, saying I love cocks, making me read that or anything like that. We got good listeners, good people here. Now I'm going to get a bunch of PayPal messages with note that says, I love cocks. All right. So we've checked in with the PayPal. We've checked in with the super chat. I am going to remind everybody. Well, actually, I'm not going to do it. I'm so thankful and thank him for this, by the way. Ian helped us to make bumpers so that I don't have to do the super chat shuffle and do the let people know how they can support us. But we are a viewer-supported show. Here's Ian to let you know how you can support the show.
Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, Put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
Okay, and we are back. I saw somebody ask me earlier if I was still sick, and yeah, still feeling very under the weather. But luckily, my wonderful wife got me some, I got all these cold pills, severe cold and flu relief. What is this one? This is multi-symptom flu HBP, whatever that is. Yeah, and my favorite thing when I'm sick is Cherry Hall's Mental Lictus, right? These really help. They'll get me through. And I've just decided it's a bad cold or something. It's a bad cold or something like that. It's just terrible when you have to talk, though, to do the show. But, you know, I have got a lovely wife, so thank her. She made a special stop off to get this stuff. And, yeah, we're going to power through, right? Idimond is here and says, one thing I really like about Stephen is how honest he is. Plus, he can apologize for any mistake. Not many can do that in this field. Well, being that crude, or maybe what some would perceive as nasty to Brandon Fugal, I'll admit was probably a mistake. Had he have open DMs or some other way for me to, I just thought it's important. Like if he's trying to be, we're so sciencey about this that maybe he would want to know who he's using to help him advertise what he's selling is not a good idea. And that's my opinion. And I'm entitled to it. I'm sorry if he took such offense to it that he had to block me on Twitter, which further complicates things because we have more to share on Mick West and his debunk of this garbage footage. And now I have to go through this special process. You know, I have to open an incognito window so we can see what Brandon Fugal is saying. It's just, it complicates things, right? Mario's Taco is here and says, I am sick too. I can't even talk. Well, thanks for being a member, and we'll lose our voices together. And it is interesting. Whatever's going on with me is definitely voice-based because yesterday I didn't talk all day. I stayed, you know, I try to make sure that I saved up my voice to do the show. And then last night I did the show and the terrible sore throat came back. So I'm going to try to stay off my voice as much as possible. You'll have to excuse if we don't do some of these 3 and 4 hour shows. We're going to keep it as brief as possible to preserve my voice. And let's get into the Mick West debunk. Yeah, we have some more information to share with you because there's an interesting exchange going on between Mick West and Stephen Greenstreet and Brandon Fugal. And now because of being blocked, I have to go through this special process to be able to come on, Brandon Fugal, just unblock me so I don't have to do this crap. I'm sorry if I pissed you off talking about the girl with the jerking off story that she left out, okay? I'm sorry that I let you know that you've got, you know, somebody that's a little less than credible helping you sell behind your paywall. Can you just unblock me? Because I have to cover you now. And this is going to complicate things. I'm going to always have to open an incognito window or log out of Twitter to be able to see what the hell you're saying. That's not fair. And by the way, though I apologize perhaps for the crudeness of what I tweeted at you, it is 100% factually accurate what I said. So do you just not like facts? Is that what it is? Do you just, you know, are you going to, you know, put your blinders on anytime somebody tells you a fact that you don't agree with or find, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing I ever said to the guy. And it's true. It's 100% true and accurate. Look into it, Brandon, before you just block me. I guess my invitation to Skinwalker Ranch is never going to happen now. It was probably never going to happen anyway. Jay Roach with a kind and generous, is that Australian, $2.99? I think so. Longtime supporter. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Jay Roach. And we want to also thank all the people who helped us tonight to praise the cash. It is much, much appreciated. And by the way, somebody said something nasty in the comments about us joking about praising the cash. And of course, this is a joke. You know, it's in jest that we do this. And it's a takeoff of two things: televangelists who are always like, praise Jesus, send me money. And also the people doing the super chat shuffle. And, you know, we're making fun of that. So if you don't like it, it's relax. It's a joke. But thank you, Jay Roach. And also thank you to Maze Rage 86, Totem R, and My Flock is Everywhere. Kind and generous supporters. And thanks to all of the Patreon supporters and all of you channel members. There's a join button now, and you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon. And by the way, there's a huge amount of back posts on Patreon that aren't on the members page, and I apologize for that. And I'm trying to figure out how to get you guys all 2 years worth of monthly 2 or 3 posts to share it on the member page. I'm figuring it out, and soon all of the channel members will have all of that back. You know, if you join Patreon, you get every Patreon post I ever made going back several years now. Lots of extra goodies. If you join the channel member page, it only goes back a month or two. So I apologize for that. We're fixing it, but thanks to all of you Patreon supporters, members. Thanks to Jay Roach and Maze Rage 86, Totem R, and My Flock is Everywhere for helping us to praise the cash.
You're watching Truth Seekers. Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Mike is here and says, great show, Stephen. Well, thanks. Good to see you here. We have UFO John Doe here, says all the same characters. Yeah. Mike says, this is a jerk-free zone. Well, listen, if a stupid paranormal story, number one, is fake, and number two, involves homosexual males who like to watch each other jerk off, I think that's relevant. And for her to leave that out says everything about her. Everybody that's really, really done real research and dug into that story knows that it's about homosexuals who like to watch each other jerk off. And for her to leave, you got to leave that out or the story sounds ridiculous. She did that on purpose, in my opinion. And by the way, I really did go there. I've got pictures and everything. Probably broke a few laws to find out the truth about that story, right? No, but thank you, Jay Roach. We appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support, and all of you kind and generous people. Maze Rage 86, Totem R, My Flock is Everywhere. Thank you. If you can't debunk Mr. West's debunk, dare to call your shit evidence. Yeah, I agree with you. If the devil is real, so is God. Well, yeah, and one would stand to reason. Yeah, Mr. Ian says, you see what we did there. Yeah. Totem R with another kind and generous $5 super chat says, caught up on Corey Good's tarot deck episode. WTF. I know 5-year-olds that can do better. Depressing. Hilarious. A fantasia of feelings. Thank you, Totem R. And I am going to have my 6-year-old make a tarot deck with me that'll be much better. And we're going to do a parody of that, right? Except I'm going to talk about how we really need money. So you got to draw a tarot deck, Xavier, because we need the money. You got to help Daddy make some money and praise the cash. And by the way, thank you, Jason, for the kind and generous $3 super sticker and for being a channel member, and Totem R for being a kind and generous supporter and helping us to praise the cat.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Yes. ID Raymond Anyone see how weird it was regarding the sad football player incident? Yeah, I did see that. And quite honestly, I'm very nervous about that whole situation. You know, you believe what you're being told is factually or scientifically accurate. You think you make the best choice. Maybe not so, right? But we don't talk about those things here, like the health crisis or the, Fauci, ouchie, whatever. We don't talk about that here. Yeah. Totem R says, this channel has brought me so much joy. Nothing compares to you. And that, Sinead, I heard it in Sinead O'Connor's voice. I heard her sing, Nothing Compares to You. Loved that song growing up. Thought she did an amazing version of that. Absolutely amazing, right? How did so many YTMDs make a video minutes after what happened to this poor young man? Again, I understand, but we kind of try to not talk about these things here in IDMON. YouTube doesn't. I don't even know. Are you allowed now? You used to not be allowed to talk about it, or, there could be consequences. I don't even know. And the same thing goes for 17th letter of the alphabet. There was a period of time where even if you covered letter of the alphabet as an absolute skeptic and talked about how stupid it is and how it's all fake, you would get a strike. You would get a strike. So I don't know if we're quote allowed unquote to talk about those things now. Who knows? Praise the Cash, great show from Sweet Cheeks. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. We appreciate you helping us to praise the cash, Sweet Cheeks. Praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
By the way, I mentioned that my son is he's shaking me down. He's made several demands. He's not doing new bumpers except unless he gets a contract renegotiation, Sweet Cheeks. He's got to renegotiate his contract in order to work for me again, because he has decided that those praise the cash bumpers are making me a lot of money. And so in order to make more, he wants to make a lot of money. And it is very cute. I'm very proud of him, though, because I'm not sure what he's up to, Sweet Cheeks. I think he's up to $76 or $78 that he has saved from birthday money, Christmas money, whatever money I gave him to do to work, help me with the show. He's saving up for his trip to Disneyland, which, by the way, I don't know when my wife's like, he's saving up money. We got to go now. And I'm like, you better get a bank loan. Do you know how expensive that is? But yeah, every kid should go to Disneyland. So we're going to take him probably next year. And that'll give him some time to save up money. Maybe by then he'll have like $276 and he'll be able to afford, I don't know, a few lunches and some drinks at Disneyland. You ever been there? It's like $10 for a water. And I know he's going to want, Sweet Cheeks, I know he's going to want one of those lightsabers where you make it, and that's like $300. So we're just recovering from Christmas. Well, we're still recovering from Christmas. That was a rough one, PlayStation, bunch of games, bunch of other stuff. Sweet Cheeks say, pay the kid. I'm going to give him your $5. That's what I'm going to do. I promise you. I will give him your $5, right? Mario's Taco says, I wish him a bright future. Yeah. If you do super chats, it's for Steve's son. Please mark it so. Yeah, you can choose to say this is for your son, and I make note of that and I give him those. But don't do it too much because daddy needs money more than my son. Yeah. Steven should come out this way sometimes and do a show overlooking SWR. Yeah, I would like that. They have a UFO campground. Have a place here if you need one. Maybe Fugal will hook you up when he comes around. Yeah, maybe he'll get over getting pissed off because I talked about the jerk off thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Fugal, but that's really what Montauk is about. Look into it. Stuart Swerdlow and Preston Nichols, those guys, right? They like to jerk off, and they used to make people jerk off in chairs. I'm not making this up. It really happened. It's great. And I'm sorry, but anybody who leaves that out of the story is doing the lie by omission and trying to sell you a fake paranormal story because it makes the story ridiculous and exactly what it is, a bullshit fake story, All right, and by the way, we're going to get into the Skinwalker Ranch stuff that Mick West posted because I think it's important. Skinwalker Ranch, Carrot's house, lights and bird on a sunny day. When Steve at Greenstreet visited Skinwalker Ranch in the summer of 2022, he asked to see their best evidence. I think Mick had a laugh at this too. He asked to see their best evidence of anomalous events. One of the things they showed him was the above video, and we will show it again. Yeah, I think that's caterpillars now. I don't think that's light because it wouldn't hang in the air like that. It would go to, maybe it is light. Yeah, maybe it is light. Well, let's watch it one more time. Sometimes I look at it and I think it's the caterpillars, and the other times I think it's light because it seems to go onto the background of whatever is, it looks like light, and sometimes it looks like caterpillars. But I don't know that it's anything paranormal. It shows the interior of an abandoned carriage house. The camera is facing the sun, which streams through the open door, an upper opening and numerous gaps in the roof. There are rafters visible, which I'd refer to, starting with the one closest to the camera as the first rafter. We see two luminous objects on the right, and they are the same bright white as the sky. That's important. The objects seem to dance around randomly. A bird flies from the chimney to the fourth rafter rack. At this point, the upper of the two objects, and presumably both of them, is in front of the second rafter. The objects waft around, move right, and fade out, and then the bird flies away. Greenstreet suggested they might be small caterpillars. That's possible, but to me, their motion and the way they fade out at the end suggests a silk in a sunbeam explanation. I think the unusual light connection mean that the beam of sunlight is strongly backlighting two silk threads fairly close to the camera. No, that's another great explanation. I did an indoor experiment with a simulated sunbeam. So let's look at his video. Yeah, so he's trying to simulate a sunbeam here hitting a silk strand. That's pretty good. Very close. Very close to what we see in the video. Or it's, a skinwalker. And here are closer versions. Well, pretty similar to what we see in the video, actually. These are just quick experiments he's running. Look very close to what we see in the video. Except, of course, the strands would be vertical. Excellent job on that. We see the correct angle. We could get a super bright segment of the fishing line when the exposure is set to show the interior. It looks pretty close. Did anybody ask him why he saw fit to take videos of the interior of the derelict building? They have constant surveillance of several locations, hoping to see something anomalous. This was one of the best things they found over the years. They have been doing it. At the time, the sun would be almost 15 degrees up at a heading. Yeah, and here's where it gets good, because he shows exactly where the sun would be shining in this situation. Yeah. I mean, it's not a perfect debunk, but it's pretty close. Pretty good, I think. But we're going to share this exchange between Brandon Fugal and Stephen Greenstreet and Mick West. If I can get to my... Can I even share that? I thought I could. Hold on one second. Let me close down everything else, make it a little easier to find it here. All right, I've shut down everything but that other one, so let's see if it's going to let me. Oh, here we go. We got it. All right. The sunlight on and around the objects matches the lights on and around other things in the carriage house. Limited change in size infers objects are nowhere near the bird, but closer to the camera. It's a pretty detailed analysis. And about Mick West's analysis, Brandon Fugal says, deeply flawed and far from an adequate explanation. I have yet to see attempts to replicate, find a comparable, or explain this that does not woefully fall short. It's a relatively small space. It's a fun exercise, though. Love the challenge and Cirque du Soleil-esque gymnastics. Specifically, what about Mick's very detailed analysis do you consider far from adequate and woefully falls short? Brandon Fugal says, inaccurate assumptions without actually working in the environment, accounting for the geometry, along with failure to provide any true comparable, simply invoking spider silk and daylight, no infrared, given the environment and all vectors is inadequate. Then add the bird. Stephen Greenstreet argues that some geometry was indeed accounted for. I guess I was asking for what specifically about West's analysis you feel is flawed. For example, do you agree with the analysis that at the time of this video, the sun was 15 degrees up and at a heading of 103 degrees? Brandon Fugal says you are correct in that some geometry is accounted for. Distance of the objects to the camera, orientation, and trajectory are merely assumptions. You have to take into account all variables. And does anybody else think it's kind of ridiculous for him to say, that can't be it? This is inadequate. Well, then show us what it is. Tell us, prove it's paranormal, Brandon Fugal. You can't. Mick West, can you post the video of the best replication effort you did? I'm interested in seeing what the closest and how you eliminated silk. And more generally, simply asserting that you went through a similar process is not that convincing. If you want to have a broader scientific community more engaged, then actually sharing your science would be helpful. Also, crowdsourcing works, but it needs data. Brandon Fugal says, I haven't been conducting my investigation to be convincing or engaged with the scientific community. This is my privately funded project. Well, there's a problem with that, Brandon Fugal. It's not privately funded. Isn't the TV show paying you and everybody on the TV show? That means it's, well, I guess it's still privately funded, but he seems to suggest here that he's putting out all the money for this, which isn't the case. And what about the local municipality paying members of the Skinwalker Ranch television show for God knows what? That's public money. But I guess they're not paying for the investigation, so we'll let that go. Originally expecting to debunk it, I never intended to reveal my identity or go public with my research. I reluctantly agreed to after years. And here we see some shots of the so-called second homestead and his wonderful helicopter. And boy, pretty interesting rocks there, right? Pretty interesting. Thinky Part says, disappointing reply. How is it disappointing? Why wouldn't you want to engage with the scientific community? Get that it's a personal pursuit, but you're choosing to make it public for profit. If there weren't people potentially hurt by the belief, I'd say go 10 seasons, but it's better to open up the data, in my opinion. I should add that I once had an encounter with a glowing orb in my house and have always wondered what it was. Ball lightning? Interdimensional? I'd really like a full hands-on deck study of this that involves every possible angle and every type of thinking applied. And this is an interesting book that, by the way, every once in a while I see an interesting book and I buy it. I'm going to buy this book. It's called Remarkable Luminous Phenomena in Nature by William R. Corliss. He says, one of the first things I worked with Eric Bard, my principal investigator and full-time physicist, that's the guy that said when he shows people that footage, he does shoo. Who showed the best footage? That was his name. Thank you, Brandon Fugal, for letting me know. His name is Eric Bard, and he's a physicist. To evaluate included material documenting remarkable luminous phenomenon in nature. I wanted to identify every possible natural prosaic explanation for what had been reported. Brandon Fugal goes on to say the docuseries is an effort to dynamically document the ongoing scientific investigation and research at Skinwalker Ranch. The ranch investigation, scientific platforms, and team were in place long before any docuseries, and we will continue regardless, employing the scientific method. While posting a girl who forgot to tell people about the Montauk jerk-off stuff, right? That's not very scientific, Brandon Fugal, but okay. Mick West, it is unfortunate that your team would assert to the world that the glowing orbs are great examples of anomalous events without detailing the steps taken to find and eliminate explanations. You don't owe anyone anything, but it makes your whole endeavor appear superficial. Brandon Fugal, boy, this is getting good. Those two are going at it. I don't believe that is a fair criticism or statement. We engage third-party experts. Why didn't they engage a third-party caterpillar expert to see if it's caterpillars? Utilizing state-of-the-art equipment, repeating and expanding the scope of experiments, anyone actually paying attention to all that we have presented can see it's not superficial. McWest says, unfortunately, though, that is the impression that the show conveys, perhaps due to the limitations of the format. Many people watching the show, including me, get the impression it's trying very hard to make something out of nothing. You could improve on that by releasing actual data and analysis. Brandon Fugal, again, an unfair, inaccurate statement, especially when weighed against the events and activity documented during numerous experiments involving third-party experts, scientists, state-of-the-art equipment, and repeated UFO sightings and strange activity with witnesses and video documentation. Then where's the video, Brandon Fugal? Where's the UFO videos? Stephen Greenstreet asked to see the best evidence, and he got this garbage. And then Mick West had to debunk it. And then you argue with Mick West. That may be how you see it, Mick West chimes in, but I assure you it's not the impression the show conveys. Constantly ignoring mundane explanations, like with the photogrammetry glitch. Who exactly told you it was inexplicable? Why not follow up if it's genuine? And this is a whole nother situation where they try to claim that a camera glitch was something mysterious. Who told us it was inexplicable? The operator and vendor, Pix4D, stated it was highly unusual. We continue to follow up, testing theories and repeat surveys of the area, as is the case with GPS, electromagnetic, and other anomalies off of at the ranch. It is often transient. McWest, who, by the way, is a computer programmer and I think is qualified to make this assessment, says it's a software error. Photogrammetry works by taking lots of photos and then feature matching to create 3D print point cloud. These points in the air were not visible, not in the photos, so it's essentially an error in the software, probably dealing with something like sun glints. Oh, here's Troubled Minds, and that's where I saw this. He says, we were told they would release peer-reviewed science and raw data for the masses to analyze years ago. I used to believe it. At least we got an insider subscription program with a t-shirt and some cherry-picked data releases. And by the way, the statement he made that the software company told him it was something mysterious, somebody came out and said, no, I work for Pix4D. We never said that. We never talked to him. So who's telling the truth here? I really don't know. And it's unfortunate, but apparently Brandon Fugal is tweeting inaccurate information to try to back up their claims that a software glitch is something mysterious or paranormal or anomalous. It's not. And that's where we're at. And that's where we find ourselves, right? I don't think there's anything to this. I mean, 6 years and the best you got is some videos of bugs, right? Or a caterpillar, likely a caterpillar, or silk or light glinting off of spider webs, or, silk from silkworms. That's not paranormal. It's not mysterious. It's not even interesting to me. And personally, if I was in charge of this investigation and I saw these 3 videos, I wouldn't even waste any time on them, because they don't prove anything paranormal. It's not proof. Is it strange? Maybe, but it's strange for a bug, like could be a bug, very likely bugs, insects. That's not paranormal. Insects are not paranormal. And what a far cry from the ridiculous, out there, outlandish stories of George Knapp with the werewolves that are bulletproof and the 9-foot tall cloaked alien creatures that roar that you could hear for miles, and the flying refrigerators and the blue meanies and the UFOs and the aliens. Those are the stories we get from Skinwalker promoters. And by the way, is it relevant that the two biggest profiteers from Skinwalker Ranch, previous to Brandon Fugal, that is, were two people who have also profited from provably fake stories like Bob Lazar? Even Brandon Fugal's own employed scientist, Travis Taylor, says that Bob's a crock of crap. So, I think that if somebody has sold provably fake stories before for decades, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't trust them when they tell new stories with no evidence that are fantastical. Remember, fantastic claims require fantastic evidence. And not only does George Knapp not have fantastic evidence, he doesn't have any evidence of these absolutely out of this world fantastical claims in these stories that he's getting paid money to tell and sell in the form of his books. I'm very suspect of this whole thing. I think it's all big money play. That's what I think. How many millions of dollars is going to be wasted looking at videos and trying to prove there's something paranormal at this place? Bob Bigelow wasted $22 million of American taxpayer money and didn't prove that there was anything paranormal there. Now Brandon Fugal has wasted at least a few $1 million, and granted, that might be his own money, but still, what are we up to? $25 million wasted on this place, and the best we got is some images of something that is likely insects, films of insects. That's all we get for $25 million. Listen, if you have dumped $25 million into this place and the best evidence you have is videos that are likely insects, and by the way, I will concede I can't prove they're insects, but what I would say is, why doesn't Brandon Fugal hire insect experts to look at these videos and say, is that a bug? Is that a caterpillar? Is that light reflected off of silk from spider webs or silkworms? And if they say, yes, it is, game over. This isn't paranormal. You should trust the experts if you get a good qualified expert. So for $25 million, and by the way, it might be much, much more than $25 million. I'm just guesstimating. I'm sure the ranch costs a pretty penny, and then he had to put in all that equipment, $30,000 computer, all those cameras. Let's just say Brandon Fugal spent $3 million so far in the past 6 years. And considering that he has full-time staff there, all hours of the day and night, 7 days a week, that's very reasonable, $500,000 a year for the past 6 years he's owned the ranch. I think it's 6 years he's owned the ranch. That would be $3 million. Very reasonable amount. So $25 million invested into Skinwalker Ranch, investigating it to prove the paranormal activity there. And this is all we get? Videos that are likely bugs or other ordinary earthly things? Very disappointing. And again, we come back to all of these people, the paranormal pushers, they overpromise, they underdeliver, and then we get to the big letdown. This entire thing that Stephen Greenstreet showed proves this is a big letdown, regardless of whether you're a believer in this place or not. Even if you're a believer, that's the best they got. After years and years and years of constant 24/7 video surveillance all over that place, that's the best they got. And $25 million pumped into this so-called investigation, into this. If that's a paranormal hotspot, why don't they have something better than this garbage? This is garbage for $25 million. And by the way, I'm going to try to get $25 million. I bought some land in the Poconos. I'm pretty sure it's haunted. I'm going to take $25 million and see what we find out, right? And hey, if it's not paranormal, I'm just going to keep the $25 million and that's it. So, you know, how many more seasons is he going to go on with videos of moths, bugs, and spider webs here. And that should inform you something about the so-called paranormal TV show circuit. Like, that's really all you got to do? That's all you got to show when you're making all of these fantastical, out there, ridiculous claims about this place? All you have to show after 3 years is some videos of bugs, spider webs? Really? That's all you got to show? And you can get a multi-million-dollar television show? Yeah, because you overpromised. And this is the inevitable under-delivering and big letdown. So, I guess I would close with saying that the Skinwalker Ranch is one big letdown. This place has been hyped out the wazoo. Books, documentaries, television shows. But look what we get from this place. Garbage. This is garbage. $25 million? That's what you got? I can go make 3 videos that are more convincingly paranormal activity at my cabin this weekend for free and post them. Like, it doesn't take $25 million. And again, overpromise. Oh, it's a paranormal hotspot. Really? Why then, after years and years and years of constant filming, is this the level of garbage that you've got? If it's such a paranormal hotspot, you should have something. Spaceship. I don't know. Dino beaver. Come on, give us one dino beaver, Brandon Fugal. Give us one bulletproof werewolf video footage. Something. A Bigfoot. Can we see the blue meanies? Can we see the UFOs? Right? I don't know. Okay. The ranch staff told Greenstreet he shouldn't stay out at the ranch by himself overnight. Greenstreet said he wasn't afraid. Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid. What are you afraid of? Bugs? They're going to be bugs? Oh, it's such a paranormal hotspot. It's so haunted. We're going to see some bugs tonight. I'm shaking in my boots, Patty. I'm so afraid of seeing spider webs and bugs tonight, right? Tons of money for nothing, just a joke. I asking myself how stupid this world can be. Yeah, I mean it's amazing to me that they still have a television show. Like, that's the best they got. And again, you got to remember that all of this stuff is carefully curated and carefully massaged. They massage every bit of data that they could get. And then they do things like deceptive editing, like we saw. They deceptively edited that one video to make it appear that thing appeared out of nowhere. It didn't. It rolled right into the frame, just like a moth or a spider on a spider web would, right? But it is what it is, welcome. I'm looking at the Twitch chat right now. Several people over there. Good to see. We're trying to get our stats up. We can't get the number of. We have to have so many concurrent viewers every show in order to get monetized over there. And we're failing miserably at it. But thank you, Naomi Pachamama, for being over there. I know what we're going to have to do in order to get monetized on Twitch is drop the Twitch streams and then once a week do a Twitch only stream or whatever, so that we get way more than the few people that they want us to have in order to get monetized. Because I'm told that once we get monetized over there, anybody with Amazon Prime can give me $5 a month and it doesn't cost them anything. Amazon gives that to people to give to the streamers or something like that. Got to look into it. So we really need to get monetized over there. Yeah. Io Walk says, I was building a deck once and Jumping Spider came out and did a dance. And since then, they have been my favorite little guys. Interesting. No Bull Truth says, I think you need to be in a hot tub for Twitch streams to profit. Yeah, I heard all about that. That's a little weird. Naomi, good. Please, we're here every night at 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. Please be there. Even if you just go there and park yourself there and you're busy and you don't watch till later, it would really help us. We're trying to get that affiliate badge going so that we could praise the cash over there. Alga Ray says, I like the idea of a Twitch only stream occasionally. I'm starting them next week. We're going to get those stats, whatever we have to do to help. Yeah, tell Twitch people, Naomi. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sarah says, great show. But she's always saying that. Blue Chicken is here. Blue Chicken must be busy given the Corey Good depositions. Oh, and by the way, we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be covering Jimmy the Slimeball Church actually said something about the whole David Wilcock, Corey Good deposition thing. And it's interesting what he said. We're going to cover that tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you will be here with us. Carrie Spooky is here and says, we've been trying to reach you about your warranty. You made me jump, Carrie, because I saw Carrie and we've been trying to reach you, and I thought it was something going on, like I've been muted for the past hour and didn't know it. Yeah. I try not to twitch. It draws attention. My Flux says, praise the cash. Carrie is spooky. Yeah, whatever you do, don't ask him about Jimmy Church. Dido Beavers, Dido Beavers, Dido Beavers, go Dido Beavers. Yeah, absolutely. Go Dido Beavers. So what else can I say? I've said what I had to say. And I hope that Brandon Fugal forgives me for telling him the truth about who he's using to help advertise behind his paywall and his offerings. Not exactly good for, serious scientific research to have that on your page, right? Unless you like lying to people and pretending that the Montauk Project is not about dudes jerking off in front of each other, Brandon Fugal, right? And you're a religious man. You understand. If a story is supposed to be about the paranormal, but it's really about gay dudes jerking off each other and jerking off in front of each other and watching each other jerk off, and the whole story revolves around jerking off, it's not a credible story. And having somebody on your page who pretended it was a credible story and left out the jerking off part is problematic for you. I would think so. I mean, everybody's, entitled to their own opinion. So what else can I say? We're going to bounce on out of here because I mentioned that my car wasn't running. I fixed my car just in time because my inspection is expiring. So I drove the car over to the mechanic, and then I had to walk 3 miles back to my house. My wife is very busy, and I just decided she's too busy. I'll just walk the 3 miles. It's not a big deal. And then I almost got hit by a car 7 times walking, trying to walk home at 3 o'clock in the morning last night. But I got home safe, and I said, well, I'm glad that's over. Whatever. I'll get the guy will inspect the car. My mechanic will inspect the car. I'll go get it tomorrow, and I won't have to worry about it for another year. But what happened is my battery died in my car. And for some reason, that resets the emissions thing or something. And now he can't inspect the car until I drive it for 100 miles. So now I got to go walk back there. I got to walk back there another 3 miles and get my car and take it home and then drive it 100 miles and then take it back for the inspection, which is so stupid. And I almost got hit by a car a few times. It's very dangerous, the road that I have to, it's like a highway and there's no sidewalk. And that's the most direct way to walk there to get the car. So that's what I did. I can go back and get it now. But I think I'm going to get down and pay the $10 for the lift or whatever so I don't die. But I got to do that tonight. I got to go get the car. And it is my wife's birthday tomorrow. So I need the car because I got to take my kids shopping to get her a cake and some gifts and things like that as soon as she gets home. And then we're going to have a little party for her. Yeah. Somebody said, oh my God, call Uber, electric scooter, right? Call Uber. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to spend the $10 though, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning last night when I went. Tonight, I should be able to get an Uber. I don't know. We'll see. Otherwise, I'm just gonna walk again. And by the way, I need the exercise, Brandy Phillips. And I figured out that although there's not a sidewalk, I could have walked on the grass on the side, but I just figured it would be quicker to not be in grass and dirt the whole 3 mile walk. So tonight, if I do it, I'll stay on the grass and stay safe. And I wanted to listen to Ozzy Osbourne's new album, which, by the way, is absolutely fantastic. If you're a music fan, especially somebody that likes rock or metal, Ozzy Osbourne's new album is called Patient Number 9. It is amazing, and he's got amazing musicians on it. Eric Clapton. He's got Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and he's got Zach Wilde and others playing on this thing. It is amazing. Amazing. One of his best albums ever, I think. Especially from a purely rock. There was a period there where it seemed like he was going a little too digital for me. He's a rock guy. Stay away from the synthesizers, Ozzy. Just do, guitar, bass, and drums. That's my preference anyway. But anyway, the new album is absolutely awesome. And one of the reasons, Brandy Phillips, I was okay with doing a 3 mile walk is because I knew it was going to take me an hour, 45 minutes. And I haven't had a chance to really, I like to listen to albums that I like from artists I like on headphones. So I thought, I'll take a walk. I'll drop off the car and then I'll take a walk home. Not a big deal. Yeah. Almost got hit by a car. Yeah. If I do get hit by a car, don't worry. I will claim it was the Men in Black trying to kill me because I'm getting too close to the truth about those aliens Operation Shutdown. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm going to do. And one of the reasons I was so happy about the new Ozzy album is because he's getting up there. And I'm very selfish. Every time an artist I really love dies, the first thing I think is, damn, now we're not going to get any more music from that guy. I thought about it when Tom Petty died. I thought about it when Chris Cornell died. I thought about it when Lane Stanley died. I thought about it every time a musician that I really enjoy dies. My first selfish thought is, we're not going to get any more music now. Like, how many more great albums did Tom Petty have in them, right? Or Johnny Cash, or anybody that's a great songwriter. I love great songwriters and respect great songwriters, being a songwriter myself. So we don't know how many more Ozzy albums we're going to get before Ozzy leaves this mortal coil. So it made me realize everybody's mortal. And his new album is amazing. Probably it's one of my most favorite since the Scream album. The other one, it was pretty good. Not a huge fan of it, but the Scream album has a lot of songs about like getting over the problems of the past and all these things. And when I was under the gun, we had to move quick. Like, a real estate developer, when we lived in Philadelphia, just knocked on my door and offered me a whole lot of money for the house that we lived in and the studio next door and all the property. And we weren't expecting to move. We weren't even trying to sell our house, but it was such a big offer that we went, okay, we'll move. And then I had to do all this stuff, clean out a huge commercial studio full of everything. And we had no place to put everything. So I had to sell stuff. And so I was so under the gun. And I listened to that Ozzy Osbourne album, Scream, the whole time. And there's songs on there that were just like perfectly fit the situation that I was in. And songs about the past, and Let It Burn was one of them, and Let It Die. I'm sorry, Life Won't Wait, right? Fearless, and it was a lot of songs about getting over problems of the past and just moving on with your life. And to this day, I love that album. I listened to it the whole time. I was trying to clean my house and my studio out and get my family moved and make this big deal work so that we could get my wife's big house in the suburbs she always wanted and whatever. I love that album. But this album, I like it even more. This album, Patient Number 9, amazing. And you can hear a lot of his, I think you can hear a lot of his mortality displayed in this album. Like he seems to be reflecting on, I'm not getting out alive, he says during one of the songs. And none of us are. We're all mortal. But it was great. Yes, and I will look at the messages. Relax. All right, let's see. We got Ari with another great thumbnail. Oh, no wonder I didn't get it because I'm logged into the Truth Seekers profile. That's what happened there, Kari. I'm blaming Facebook. So let's see. We'll take a look. Oh, my wife sent me something too. My wife keeps sending me funny videos of men who are sick, who are crybabies, right? Oh, look at that. That's great, Spooky. Yeah. Let's share this. We got to share this. This is one of the best ever. Tomorrow's thumbnail. Jimmy Church, he won't apologize for promoting Corey Good and David Wilcock. Oh, yeah, seriously. And that is because he says that he doesn't worry about things from the past, Spooky. And I love Spooky put the whistleblower Pete Peterson GoFundMe scam right on Jimmy Church's head. For those that don't know, Jimmy Church let David Wilcock promote a 100% provable GoFundMe scam for his fake whistleblower, Pete Peterson, wherein the UFO community was scammed for some $55,000 for a completely fake story. They claimed that his house was getting bulldozed and all his possessions, and police were there, and they wouldn't let him get his stuff, and that was all lies. And Jimmy Church let David Wilcock promote that scam on his show and then never apologized, even when we here proved what a complete scam it was. I couldn't believe it. Then David Wilcock promoted a PayPal donation scam for Emery Smith, also on Jimmy Church's show. And Jimmy Church has never apologized for either of those two big scams promoted on his show. And he says he's not apologizing because he doesn't worry about things from the past or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So tomorrow night, 9 p.m., we will present our newest show, Jimmy Church. He won't apologize for promoting Corey Good and David Wilcock. Oh, yes, seriously. And thank you, Spooky. Yeah. And Algaray says, great thumbnails, Carrie Spooky. Yeah, great thumbnail, right? Love it. Love it. Be here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you are most welcome. If you don't know much about Jimmy Church, it's a good time to, we'll give a recap of all the scammy slime balls that Jimmy Church has platformed and all the fake fraud hoaxer losers that Jimmy Church has been perfectly okay with promoting as long as he makes some money. And we will detail how Jimmy Church had his show at KGRA, which is run by a child rapist. Yeah. And, or at least employs a child rapist. Then Jimmy Church worked for J3 Films, which was promoting a documentary about a convicted kitty porn collector. Jimmy Church also worked for them, right? The world's biggest UFO slime ball, Jimmy Church, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't copyright claim me. We'll be sharing some clips from him. And last time we did that, he falsely copyright claimed me, but then he got an education in how this stuff works because we have great lawyer letter and we fought it and the strike reverted to him because he falsely copyright claimed us. So we better not do that again. Lawyer letters are standing by. I don't care if he does. We are allowed to use. He's a public figure. It's on YouTube. It's wherever. It's a public video link. We're allowed to use it, and we will. So what can I say? What else can I say, friends? We're going to bounce on out of here. I got to go figure out how I'm getting my car. Either I'm walking or I'm going to break down. If there's an Uber available, I will get an Uber. But, I live in a kind of middle of nowhere in the suburbs, and sometimes there's not an Uber available for an hour or two, and I just want to get there and get it over with. So if I have to walk, I have to walk. I'm going to listen to Ozzy's excellent album again, and I encourage you to do so as well. one of the best in years, I think. Really, really good. I mean, it's kind of hard not to make a good album when you've got Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and Zakk Wylde doing the guitars, right? Amazing job he did. And I think some of the best lyrics and best vocal melodies in a long, long time from him since the Scream album, which I also loved. All right. I'm not getting paid to promote Ozzy Osbourne, by the way. He's got enough money, but God bless him. God bless Ozzy Osbourne, the godfather of heavy metal and hard rock, really responsible for a whole genre of music. May he live long and prosper. I hope we see 10 more albums from him, and I'm hopeful for that. Loved Ozzy Osbourne growing up and will continue to love his music forever. I wish him long life, health, and happiness. All right, we're going to bounce on out of here. Remember, we'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we would like to thank the chat room moderators. We would like to thank you, kind and generous benefactors, you PayPal supporters, you channel members, you super chatters, you PayPal pledgers. And we want to thank our announcer, Ian, and, of course, especially Spooky for the wonderful graphics. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Hope you'll be here with us. Until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you, including you, Brandon Fugal. I'm going to pray that you, a Christian, do the Christian thing and forgive me for pissing you off, tweeting at you one time. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to pray that you find it in your Christian heart to forgive me and unblock me. Because if you don't, it's going to make covering you, like, doing stories about you and the ranch much more difficult. So please, in the name of Jesus, we're both Christians. Can you just find it in your Christian heart to forgive me for telling you facts and evidence and telling you the truth? Can you just forgive me for telling you something that you didn't like, right? You're a Christian. Shouldn't you just forgive me? Even if you don't, Brandon Fugal, I forgive you. Good night, and God bless all of you.